everyone, it's Obi Abuchi here with the Leading From Your Core podcast and Vodcast. This show is dedicated to helping leaders all around the world discover leadership wisdom, stories, and insights that will enable you to tap into the power of leading from the inside out. And I am delighted to welcome on the show, all the way from the UAE, Nathan John. Nathan is a corporate banker and social entrepreneur based in Dubai. And over 19 years in banking, he's worked for some of the world's leading companies, from Barclays, JP Morgan, Ernst & Young, and the Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank. And one thing that's really exciting, and we'll talk about this shortly, is in 2007, he founded the Youth Enlightenment Limited, YEL, which is a social enterprise committed to providing inspiration and empowerment to young people. And he continues to do some incredible work in that space, has spoken at events, various parts of the world, Dubai, London, Paris, spoken at the mayor's office here in the UK, colleges, schools, in prison. He's been interviewed over, not that he's been in prison, he's spoken in prisons. And Nathan has also been interviewed over 150 times on the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, Sky News, LBC, The Guardian, and more and more. Nathan, it's absolutely a delight to have you on the show today.
It's an absolute pleasure being here. Thank you very much for the invitation.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. I've been looking forward to our conversation for a while. As I said, you and we've known each other, I think it goes back to 2008. So a year after you started YEL, with some other partners, I started a group called the Young Talent Network, and we connected on that, and our paths have paralleled for a long while. And so great to see the incredible work that you're doing, and just have an opportunity to get you on the show now and hear some of the leadership lessons you've learned, some of the mentoring lessons that you've learned. So great to have you. Just to kick things off and give people an insight into you and your passion and some of your motivation, it'd be great to hear what actually inspired you to start the Youth Enlightenment Limited initiative. Okay.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks again, and congratulations to you on all of your many successes, the launch of your latest book, this podcast, and all the leadership training and initiatives that you're doing. It's been great to see your journey over the years, and thanks again for having me on. So the main driver for Youth Enlightenment is very personal. Basically, I'm from Southeast London. I grew up off the Old Kent Road. My mum got married and moved to another area, and I grew up in Lewisham. And I saw a lot of friends around me maybe not have goals, not being focused, and falling in with the wrong crowd. Some ended up going to prison, some ended up being stabbed, some have even ended up being killed. And I mean, that's kind of normal when you're from that environment, or you think it's normal. A time came that I was very fortunate to avoid all of that, and I was working in the city myself, and there was a lot of knife crime going on. And I was reading about a story, an incident that happened in Brixton, and it was on the BBC, and they said, if you've been impacted by this, get in touch. And I said, look, I've not been impacted physically, but emotionally it's hurting me seeing members of my community, doing this, and that this has been going on for such a long time. And I said, no, I wanted to do something about it because I've avoided it, and I wanted to play a role in avoiding that also. Another key driver for me is my own father. He, unfortunately, didn't do well in school. He fell into the life of crime, and he ended up in a mental institute. And while he was there, he was given a tranquilizer that was more powerful than it should have been, and he died.
Wow.
And for many years, I was really angry over his death. I was really angry over how he died. But as I got a bit older, I got a bit angry over that pattern and the fact that that same pattern was being followed in my generation, and it was still killing people in my generation, if not physically, but also mentally, you know? So I think those two things combined made me feel like, you know, I've avoided that and I need to play my part in helping others, because I knew that a lot of young people got involved in things because when they looked around them, the members of their community who were successful, who had money, had nice cars, jewelry, haircuts, whatever you call it, were the guys, you know, selling drugs or doing other things. And I knew if you could show them those alternatives, you wouldn't get all of them, but you would capture some of that market. You would get some people saying, wait, I have a choice, I can do this route. And that's what I wanted to do, because I remember just being in college, I almost dropped out when a friend of mine dropped out to sell weed full time. Another friend of mine dropped out to work in a local sportswear shop full time. A voice came to me and said, why are you staying in college? What are you going to get from it? Who do you know that has followed the route of education and has got a good career? And luckily I had one person, a friend of the family, he was an accountant, and he used to come and cut my hair. And he was my role model. And I had that one person that kept me going, even when everyone around me was kind of, you know, doing their thing. So I kind of felt that I wanted to be that person to others. So yeah, that's kind of the inspiration behind why I started Youth Enlightenment 15 years ago now, and why I'm still passionate to, you know, engage with young people and support them to achieve their goals.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, it's amazing. I feel like I've known you so long and yet haven't really connected with that part of your story, but it's amazing, inspiring on several levels, that sometimes we can experience a breakthrough in our lives and keep it to ourselves and say, hey, I've broken through and that's it, you know, I'm going to go on this journey of success and, you know, might help a person here or there. But the fact that for you it became a motivation to set something up and say, I want to proactively help others. And if anything, people hear from your story, and we'll talk about the power of mentoring shortly, is not only were you keen to give back, just, you know, towards the end there, you said there was someone there that kept you going, that believed in you enough. And there's something energizing, there's something powerful about paying it forward, about giving some of what we have been given. It reminds me, a big part of the reason that I'm doing a lot of the leadership work that I'm doing today was because a mentor of mine gave me a copy of Stephen Covey's book when I was 18. And the only reason he gave it to me wasn't because it was like, hey, Obi, you'll become a great leadership expert and trainer someday, or coach. It's hey, want you to do well in your A-levels. So here, read this book and internalize the lessons. And honestly, I've not been able to stop talking about the impact that had on me, and the lessons about, okay, personal leadership, and I need to take responsibility for my life, and my life can have an impact, and think about the bigger picture. And so there's incredible power in having people in our lives who believe in us, who speak life into us, and then when we get to do the same thing and pass it on, not let it stop there. So let's talk a bit more about just the power of mentoring for you, because yes, you started the YL 15 years ago, and obviously you've grown and developed as a banker, but I can imagine that it's not always been easy. And so have you always had a mentor since then, and what difference has that made, or have there been moments where you haven't, and have you noticed a difference then?
So I think I've always had someone that I've turned to for guidance and some form of coaching, but I've not always had a formal mentor, I would say. And the times when I have had, that formal relationship where you agree to meet on a regular basis, you talk about goals, you set milestones, you're accountable of those milestones. I've definitely seen myself develop and propel forward a lot quicker than when I don't. A mentor for me, the way I choose mentors is quite simple. It's where do I want to go to, who's where I want to be, and who can share their experience and guidance and expertise and wisdom to me because they've done it. I don't just go for someone who maybe has a big title or has the wealth or is a good speaker. It's someone who has achieved something that I'm looking to achieve, because I think that's a real quick way of achieving it yourself, is learning from others. But there has to be a personal connection as well. You've got to feel that you can open up to that person, there's a rapport, etc. I remember there was a time when I met someone, my time at Barclays, and I approached him and said, I would love for you to be my mentor, really admire you. I would love to get myself in the position that you're in one day. And he said, I'm so busy, but please meet with the following people. He gave me a list of individuals to meet. And I met with every single one of them. Every single one of them was very impressive, had achieved a lot, but I didn't have the same connection that I had with him. Wow. And I remember bumping into him in the staff cafeteria and saying that, look, I've met everyone that you said, they're great, but they're not you, and I'm willing to wait. And he said, you know what, I admire your tenacity. And then I think a month or so later, we started our mentoring relationship. Wow. And that same individual played a part in me moving from finance, because I used to be in accountancy. So when I was at Ernst, I was in the audit division, etc. When I was working at Barclays, I was in the finance division. And that's where I moved into the front line, into relationship management and sales. And he played a big part in that. And even my move to the UAE. So, it was worth me sticking to my guns and getting the mentor that I wanted, But yeah, mentoring is very, very important to me, very passionate. I'm very passionate about it. I've seen the difference it makes in lives. There's a young man who is now living out here, who was a part of a mentoring program I set up 11 years ago. And so I've seen the impact it's had on him and others who have gone on to do great things. So very passionate about mentoring, and I know it can help everyone learn. And I think it's a two-way thing too. You don't just always, as a mentee, learn from the mentor. The mentor gains something from you too. I think it's a two-way relationship.
Yeah, I love it. Wow. And thanks for sharing the stories that you did. It's interesting. I've got 3 boys, and I was chatting with my older boy recently, and I shared this African proverb with him that kind of resonates with what you've just talked about, that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And the importance of, you can make a quick buck doing some dodgy things, but you really want to go far and you really want to have an impact, then you want to go with other people and have mentors in your life who have been there, who are doing what you're inspired to do, and having their involvement and their input. And I respect that tenacity to say, check to these people out. There just isn't the connection. There's something about you, and I know that I'm going to get from you, and look at the impact it's had on you today. And you said at the end there that it's, that mentoring isn't just one way. It's not just the mentee that gains. And clearly you've been doing a lot of mentoring yourself now and giving back. What are some of the things that you've learned, that you've gained from being in the mentor role yourself?
I think I've learned a lot about myself. You tend to reflect a lot when you're giving someone advice that is in a position that you were once in. You reflect and think, how did I navigate, and how could I have done that better as well, of course.
Sure.
So I think reflection is very important as a leader. It's important to look back and look at the lessons that you've learned and how you've grown from them. You know, my mindset has really changed from, I'm a Virgo, and people say Virgo's a perfectionist, and I think there's partly right, there's some truth for that. So I hate when I make a mistake. I hate when I don't do things well and I get feedback that might not be to, you know, my liking. But my attitude to that has shifted so much, because I realize, I mean, the word fail is first attempt in learning, you know?
Love it. Wow.
No one gets something right the first time. Think about the first time we all picked up a pencil and tried to write our name. We didn't get right the first time or the second time, maybe didn't get right the 5th or 10th time, but we kept trying and we got better each time. We learned from every experience. And you learn more from those failures, so to speak, than the times when you get the hole in one and you celebrate, you know? So yeah, reflection's so important. I do a lot of it more now than ever. I even try to meditate where I can. I think that really helps me. Another thing I've learned from being a mentor, I guess, is this, that you can learn from everyone. And even though there's someone who's younger than me and maybe less experienced than me, doesn't mean that I know more than them or that I'm right. You know, they've got a perspective that maybe I haven't thought about. They've had an experience that, by sharing with me, helps me to understand people from a different perspective. And I think that's really important as a leader, is having, even though we have our key values and principles, but it's still not being closed off to people that think and feel differently to us. And, you know, trying to understand, you know, why that is, and trying to say to yourself, how do I work with this individual? How do I motivate them? How do I get them to be the best they can be, even though they have a different work ethic to me or different value system to me? So I think that's helped me as well. It's just, yeah. And then the energy as well, right? Young people got that energy, they've got that ambition, that fire is still burning bright. And my fire is still there, but, you know, it's not as strong as I guess it used to be. So when I meet someone younger who's at an earlier stage in their career, it helps to kind of reignite my ambers that have maybe gone a bit more, you know, a bit more warm. So that also helps.
I love that. I love that. Just keeping that fire going. And I think I like to say, it's sort of, we become a bit more laser focused over time, don't we? So we're not all over the place trying to jump at everything, but there's an intensity to the energy. I love what you said though about how in your role as a mentor, it gives you the space to reflect, because you're in a sense reliving some of your journey through this other person, as they say, well, okay, I was in a similar situation. What was that like? Actually, what would I do differently? I don't want to just dish out advice that, hey, this is what I did then. It's actually, I've had enough time to reflect and more experience to build on. I think it's such a powerful space to hold for people, to say it's actually okay to fail. I remember that was one of the biggest things for me as an individual. 2012, when my first book came out, and I've shared this a few times on the podcast, but my first book came out, but business dried up, opportunities dried up. And so here I was launching my first book, but I felt like this incredible failure because the money had dried up. We're paying our mortgage on the credit card. And I needed people to hold a space for me and just say, hey, Obi, it's okay. You will bounce back. This is still an incredible achievement, but it's hard when you're young and passionate and you're thinking, oh no, that's it. I've let myself down. I've let the world down. I'm out. And so being able to hold that space for people as a mentor is powerful, as well as holding it for yourself. And when you talked about this, also this idea of failing and learning from it, I couldn't help but think of what you're doing with the YEL, and when we met through the Young Talent Network. That's so it's one of the reasons why it's so important to hear the stories of people, because someone can look at you now, right, Nathan, and say, oh, Nathan, he's got it all together. He's living in the UAE. He's running this organization. Oh, he's speaking at events. Oh, he was on TV again the other day. And like, oh, he's amazing. And yet they forget that, no, there've been a lot of ups and downs along the way, and you failed along the way. And so it's okay. It's part of the journey. As you said, fail, love that acronym, first attempt in learning. And no one gets it right first time. Is it Michael Jordan? He says, I've missed more baskets than I got, right? But part of my success was because I kept going. I'm like, hey, I'm going to keep going. And that's a big part of it. So
he even got dropped from his high school basketball team. And that pushed him to hit the gym during the summer and train harder to come back stronger. So sometimes, you need these setbacks to help you, to propel you forward. And you're right, I think people do look at those who are in a position that they might want to be in one day and think it's been easy, but it hasn't. So that's why I love speaking, because I love to be honest and talk about my journey and to show individuals, where I'm coming from. From my childhood as well, from the estate that I lived in, the fact that, I remember waking up to go to the toilet and the front door was open because we got broken into. I remember when my mum's car got stolen, the day she got it back, it got stolen again that very night. That was my home experience. It's so easy to come up with a list of reasons why we can't achieve something, or why life isn't going the way we want it to go. I can find that even for myself right now. But I've learned over the years that you have to hold on to what have you got, not what you don't have. That's not going to help you. What do you have? Ultimately, we all have life. Once you've got life, you have hope. Then you look at your core. What are your skills? What abilities do you have? So for me, one of the abilities I have is the ability to talk. That's why I do a job now that I meet with clients. I understand the requirements. I talk about what we can provide them from a banking perspective. Or when I'm doing my public speaking, I'm just utilizing a key skill. And we've all got a key skill. I guess we have to explore what that is. But it's all about just focusing on what you have, not what you don't have. And yeah, that's very important, I think. And that's a message I always like to give over to everyone when I hear, I would if I had this, and if I had that, and if I had this. I'm like, okay, we all do a lot more if we had everything we wanted. What do you have? Start there. And it grows, right? The skill base, the network, the wealth, it all grows. It all starts from somewhere.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's just that reminder that that we have agency. Even in the beginning, you talked, as you shared your story, you use this word, hey, I have a choice, actually. I have a choice. You had a choice to say, all right, that friend of mine is dropping out to sell weed, I'll do that. Or that friend is dropping out to work in the sports direct or whatever, I'll do that. But instead, no, hey, I have a choice to really maximize my potential and go down a path that will help me be the best that I can be with all of the talents that I have. And we have that choice, and it helps to hear stories like yours, like mine even. I didn't grow up with my father, and there are so many, I could give so many stories about, well, I didn't have a dad, or didn't have this and didn't have that, but there was so much love that was poured into me from my mom, and I was given opportunities to study, and I feel grateful for the skills and the abilities that I have. And so rather than focus on, and I'm tempted to easily, just like you said, easily think, oh, don't have that, but actually, what can you be? What do I have? What am I grateful for? And that begins to train my mind to see opportunities to grow, to develop, to have an impact, rather than see all of the negative, and then that just takes away our energy.
Correct,
So,
definitely. I think having the ability to see opportunities when others see chaos or disappointment is definitely a key skill, especially in the world of business. That's what it's all about. It's kind of, always seeing an opportunity to offer or provide a service or a solution to someone.
Yeah. And I think that, and you definitely demonstrated that with YL and the various things that you've done over time, is this idea of thinking about, actually, what do I have and how can I make a difference? Like when we ask those sorts of questions, how can I do good? How can I make a difference? How can I share? I mean, the thing about mentoring is literally, I may be 1 or 2 rungs ahead on the ladder. How can I just share and help someone else? And that opens up opportunities for you to see opportunities and to grow and develop others, which is really powerful. I want to come back to something you said, just this idea of, the setbacks and overcoming the setbacks that we've all faced along the way. And you said that's why you love doing what you do and share stories of some of those times that you got it wrong. Do you have a similar Michael Jordan type story of a setback that you faced in recent years? And like, man, that almost knocked me for 6, but I decided to reframe it and see it as an opportunity to grow. Other than obviously what you've shared about, your early journey?
Yeah, so I think, so I started my banking career almost 20 years ago. I left college, started working full-time. I was studying part-time, very fortunate to get the jobs that I got and worked in the companies that I worked for. But it's during my time out here, I actually got made redundant because the bank I was working for refocused and they retrenched from the market and they made majority of the team redundant, including myself. And I never saw that come in. I didn't have a plan B or C. I think I took it very personally as well.
Okay.
And I found myself in a job that wasn't right for me, wasn't the right fit. Money-wise, it wasn't paying. And I fell behind debt, for example. Things were extremely tough, very, very tough, to the point that if someone came to me and said, I could just take you from this world, take you from this suffering or, this pittiness, darkness, just like this, I would say, yes, I can't see a way out of it. Remove me. I lost all hope. I got to the lowest point I've ever reached, even as an adult, even having responsibilities and family to support. And I had to really dig deep and remind myself that my recent experience or recent troubles was only a chapter in my story. It wasn't the end of my story. There's a saying, it's a blip in the road, a bend in the road, not the end of the road. Just a bend in the road, just to reshift you and refocus you. But sometimes when things don't go your way, maybe you lose your job, maybe a relationship ends, maybe a loved one passes away. It's difficult, and we feel that we had a vision, we were on a certain path, and it comes to a halt, and we think that's it, our life is over because we saw it going this way. But it doesn't have to be that it's over. It could just mean you need to shift, and actually where it's going to take you to will allow you to be more successful, more impactful, reach heights that you wouldn't have expected, and that there's lessons to learn from those experiences. And that's what's definitely happened to me. I can definitely speak to individuals who are going through things that I never ever went through before, and I can relate to them. I can understand someone who is depressed and really thinks there's nothing going right for them, because I've been there. But there's a time that I've never been there because things had always kind of worked out for me. I always kind of got the job I wanted to go for always kind of got the grades I wanted to go for, and this, to a certain extent, never really faced hardship as an adult. As in my childhood, yes, but that was on my mum to deal with, or my stepdad to deal with. But for me to deal with it as an adult myself, yeah, that was a massive challenge. But I'm so glad I got through that, and it's given me a resilience that I never had before, and also a self-belief I never had. You know, I had confidence before, but I don't think I truly believed in me. I had confidence to go and do something and try something, but now there's a belief that if I try something and it doesn't work, I'm just going to keep trying. I'm just going to keep learning. So before I had confidence, but if I stumbled, I would have said, oh, okay, that didn't work out. Maybe that's not for me, and I'd move on to something else. But now there's a deep tenacity that wasn't there before. So I'm grateful. I'm very, very grateful for that.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Thanks for the honesty to do that. I can empathize with a lot of the pain. I'm curious, what helped you? What brought about the shift? Because it sounded like you got to a really dark place, and what created the shift for you?
So the shift for me came when, in this country, if you fall behind with payments, in the time that I was, when it happened, it's changed, the law's changed now, that they can restrict you from traveling. And I was meant to go home for a birthday, and I couldn't because I wasn't allowed to travel.
Wow. And
you know, that was hurtful for me, because you know, being away from family, that's the one commitment I have, is I always make it home for the key dates. So I think that made me feel like, okay, something really needs to change here. I can't continue as it is. I need to find a way to change things. So that pain of not being able to have that freedom that I wanted to have really made me kind of wake up and say, okay, you need to change this now. You need to wake up. Come on. Remember who you are. Remember, like I said, this is just one chapter in your story. So remember all the chapters before, all the things you've achieved, all the things you know, the skills, the experience. That's not gone away just because of this one part of your life.
Yeah.
You know? So I had to really kind of focus on all of that and really pick myself up. And I guess in some ways it was like being a soldier who'd stripped himself of all his armor and just laid it all down. And then maybe, I don't know, stepped on a thorn and was just focusing on the thorn. And was like, oh, my foot's hurting me. Oh, the thorn, the thorn. I don't know, you know. And then you realize, wait, you remember the battles that you've won behind you, and you remember all the armor that's still there. All those things you've achieved, they're still there as a part of your track record. Those skills are still there. I remember a friend saying to me, you know, if you've got a job in the past with the experience you had at that time, the qualifications you had at that time, the skills you had at that time, of course you're going to get another job. Because you've got more experience now, more skills, more knowledge. And it's so strange how when, you know, we're in that dark place, you forget these things. We just like, oh, woe is me, the world is against me, things aren't working out, but you really forget. You forget who you are. And I guess I forgot who I was, and I just had that moment of awakening. And it's been a journey as well, because from there, I've only continued to grow and continue to get to a level that I wasn't at before. Sure. So as much as that was a difficult time, I'm grateful for that time, because it's made me stronger now.
Yeah, wow. That is such a powerful lesson, a reminder of the pain that often it's that darkness, the dark night of the soul. Some people describe it as the wrestling that you've got to go through before you get to the other side. And in my book, and this is something that many people might be aware of, but I often, my favorite way of describing transformation and experience of breakthrough is the journey that a caterpillar goes through to become a butterfly. It's essentially, it's got to die, but that death is painful, right? But when you struggle and you value the pain and you embrace the struggle, you come out so much stronger. And it sounds like just even your realization that I got to remember who Nathan John is. I got to remember what I'm made of. And if I have a failure, that doesn't define me. Who am I? I'm this person that has a passion for people. I'm this person that is skilled as a speaker. I'm this person who knows how to build relationships. And okay, yeah, this job, I can't control the market. I can't control every single opportunity, but I know who I am and what and it sounded like you were able to get to that place, that reminder of who are you, dig deep into that, and then begin to go back to expressing all of who Nathan is and more, right? So powerful. Was there something you were going to say?
No, I was just saying that, just remembering who I was at my core, and just remembering the journey. Because I guess, we've had similar experiences, childhood, and things we've had to overcome. We've traveled the furthest we need to travel. Even though you could have, doesn't matter what the biggest, I don't care what the biggest goal you have now, but you've overcome probably the hardest part of it, that, am I good enough? Can I do it?
Sure.
Will I just end up like, others in my community, unfortunately, or others who look like me? Because what the statistics are, and I know things are improving, but it's still not where they should be. Within the Black community, I still don't see, we're not where, in my view, where we should be yet. I do see a lot of change. But I also then do see some things I think have fallen off in a sense. When I look back to some of the great leaders who fought for us to have the opportunities we have now, the liberties that we have now, I do wonder if they think, what are you guys actually doing with it? You have the ability now. There's no law that can stop you from achieving, to being whatever you want to be, to studying where you want to study. What is stopping you from owning the businesses that you can own, to reach into the heights? Now, I'm not saying what is stopping, because we do know there is obstacles, and we know over the last few years with the Black Lives Matters movement, it's kind of brought things to the fray. So we know there are challenges, don't get me wrong, but they face greater challenges, and they still were able to rise above it. And I just feel like, I just think there's a bit more I can do, speak for myself. Sure. There's more that I can do, and there's more that I'm willing to do, even if it's to also just show others, what we're capable of, regardless of the challenges and regardless of individuals who might not like us for whatever reason, but we can still reach heights. Yeah.
No, I hear you, Nathan, and I just want to say, honestly, a real honor to just see what you're doing, what you're learning, and the fact, more importantly, that you're not letting it stop with you, that you are allowing yourself to be a reservoir who gains and passes on and shares and develops and grows others. So I celebrate that. It's an inspiration for me, an upward call, and I definitely hope that you continue to have an incredible impact. So I feel like we could go on talking for ages, and I want to wrap up with, it's one of my favorite questions to wrap up with. And given that we've been talking about mentoring, we've been talking about lessons from the past and our younger self and the journey that we've been on, if you could chat with your younger self, the younger Nathan, knowing all that you know now, what's one message that you, or piece of advice that you would give to your younger self as you're embarking on this journey of growth and leadership and development? What's one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self?
You know, the biggest piece of advice I'll give to myself is be you. You're good enough, you're great enough, and your future is bigger than you can imagine. So
Wow.
Just be you. You know, so often you think we have to change to fit into certain environments or to achieve certain things, and actually just being ourselves, being natural and letting our natural abilities and skills just flourish. It's going to be the thing that helps us get there. And you know, when I was younger, you know, I was a student that was told to be quiet and to sit down, and you know, because I had too much energy and it wasn't being channeled in the right way. And my personality, I think I was I'd always want to challenge things and try to figure out different ways. Even with maths, I was really good at maths. I wasn't at first, and then I became good at maths. But I would do my working out in a different way. And that's just who I am, you know. And sometimes you feel like, oh, I need to change. I need to be like everyone else. But I'd say to myself, just be you, and just let life's going to be great, you know. So just don't worry.
Amazing. And thank God for that energy that you had, because there's no way you'd start YEL without that. There's no way you'd be doing what you're doing if you didn't have this energy, this passion, this desire to connect with people. So amazing. Great piece of advice, not only for your younger self, but for a lot of the listeners and viewers of this show. So, hey, to all our listeners and viewers, our time's up, but I hope you enjoyed that show. So many incredible insights about the power of mentoring, not only the impact we have on others, but the things that we get to learn for ourselves, and remembering just to connect with who we are beyond our failures, even beyond our successes, and just recognize we've got so much agency and purpose. So it's been great to hear that from Nathan. And remember that if you want to be a courageous and resilient leader, if you want to live life on purpose and with purpose, then it starts from the inside out. Have a great day. See you on the next show. And Nathan, once again, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your insights today.
Pleasure.